Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube family, Twitter family? This is Samuel Leggett representing Team JVS. I'm going to give you guys my best, clear and concise, one-shot review for Birds of Prey, Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I think I got that right. So yeah, I apologize ahead of time. There's not going to be any post edits or any kind of added clips or anything. It's just me giving you my raw thoughts and perspective on this film. So what comes to mind, this movie, I think of two. Is it not necessarily the movie itself works and functions like two different movies. It's more so like things I really dug and things I really kind of had issues with. But to be very clear, if you are going, this weekend to look for a film that is entertaining, random, crazy, like Deadpool, pretty well shot as far as action and cinematography, very interesting character dissections when it comes to this specific role of Harley Quinn that Margot Robbie plays to a T, that I don't think you're going to have an issue with it. Matter of fact, if you enjoy certain aspects of her in Suicide Squad, they definitely further her character in a lot of good respective ways. So I think from entertainment value, I think you're going to really at least be very entertaining and enjoy this film. So before I go through this, so the biggest thing for me is that I'll talk about things that I really loved, and then I'll talk about like the second thing that I'm talking about. So Margot Robbie, she nails it. Like, she's back true to form. They do her character so much justice in terms of her as an individual. And I think that from the physicality, from the emotional, especially at the very beginnings of the film, I think Margot Robbie plays it up very well. Even the look and aesthetic of her is a person that's trying to progress past the abuse and the different turmoil that she's basically come out of, or trying to come out of, so to speak. And I think that Margaret plays it perfectly, and I think the movie caters to her as the main focal point. Now, the two part of that is, if you've looked at the DC Universe's Harley Quinn show, she's way more crazy. She's way more out there in your face. They definitely do a little bit more to explore the dissections of her as an individual character, as much as what she means on the outside. As well as another part of that is that this was not really a Birds of Prey movie. It's really very much so Harley's movie. So that's the other part of that. Two other characters I thought very fascinating that I really enjoyed were definitely Journey Smollett's the Canary, or Black Canary, and also I loved a lot of different things about Ewan McGregor's rendition of the Black Mask. I think that definitely Journey, she nailed the role and what they were able to do with her, and the character dissection. I think that the two for her, I would say, is that I didn't necessarily like, not the aesthetics of what she was wearing. It was more so like from a traditionalist standpoint, from a comic book standpoint, I think they could have done a little bit more different things with it. But as far as her as a character, I think they did her justice. They did a lot of great things with it. I think I just would have wanted a little bit more with her character. But I think that it definitely leaves room for a lot more things to come. Ewan McGregor, I thought that the way that he owned the role and the way that he acted in the role, him and I think it's Chris Missa or Mira, Chris Messina. I think that they worked very well together. Their chemistry was very on target. But even more so than that, like I said, I think Ewan McGregor, he really does own the role in a very sharpened way. The two of this is that he's not necessarily the physicality menacing side, and I think that also goes in tandem with Victor Zsasz. I think that they both played menacing characters. I think they both played haunting, disturbing characters. I think the issue was more so that they didn't really do anything to pay off them being necessarily that menacing at the end of the day. I think it all played to a T to show like, man, this build up, like, oh man, they about to go off. But that go off never really happened. Specifically with Victor Zsasz, I was a little like, man, you have the actor there. You have like the actor really playing the role, but you don't really do anything necessarily with him. There's another character in Cassandra Cain that I think that for the movie is serviced, and I think the young actress does a great job. She's very interesting, very different. But she is not the ideal rendition of what Cassandra Cain that you would think, nor do they do anything with her at all in terms of where you would think. I think that Rosie Perez as Montoya, she plays it very good. I think she does a really good job with her character. In terms of the story and scope of the actual story, I think the story really does pay tribute to these amazing women that are talented in their own rights, in their own respects, and in their own drives and goals, but they're all being like kind of like crushed in terms of somebody like trying to force the hand of what they should be and what they shouldn't be. And I think the movie does play that very well. I think it's definitely very empowering in a lot of different respects to that. But the bottom side of that is that towards the third act, there was a lot of buildup in the first act, but it doesn't really feel like it was necessarily paid off as much as I thought it would have been. Just in terms of where these characters actually wrap off at. It kind of like just ends, kind of. But that's not to say that the action isn't good. The action is actually very well shot. There's some very cool moments. Interesting car sequence towards the third act. Really dope fight sequence within like a jail and a police station that I thought was really dope. Pretty much all fight scenes were done pretty well, but some of them kind of like don't work for me, and I think that's the two of it, where it's kind of like, oh man, this reminds me of The Raid. Oh man, this reminds me of John Wick. Oh man, this reminds me of Deadpool. But then there's certain things that they are like, they don't really go anywhere with. So I don't know. I think I'm pushing and pulling, but I don't know if I'm nitpicking more so than anything. I want you guys to let me know what you got. Like I said, there are certain things that I really love. Like I said, when I think about Huntress, I think that they nailed the character. I think the aesthetic of the background of her from a look, it didn't necessarily work necessarily to my thought of where I thought it was going to go. I'm trying to figure out where I'm trying to go with this. I'm really at a crossroads with this, literally, because there are things that I loved about this film. There are aspects of it that I really enjoyed about this film. But then there are certain things I feel like were a little lackluster or left open to grabs. And not just that, the connective tissue, I didn't think it was going to bother me as much, but it's not necessarily there. There's no connective tissue to anything from the DCU. Maybe to Suicide Squad to an extent, but I mean, don't expect any cameos. Don't expect any kind of connected things that's happened in any of these other films. This very much so is what the director kind of really wanted. And I think Margot Robbie even alluded to that. Even though there were certain sequences I think they remember talking about shooting, but they decided to leave certain stuff off. And I think that if it was kind of connected and it was going to go somewhere, I think it would have meant a little bit more towards the third act, as opposed to feeling like it just kind of ended. But that's not to say the ride isn't fun. It's not to say that it isn't very entertaining, definitely empowering. And I think that they definitely do pull certain things out of Harley Quinn that I really loved. But honestly, if you think about like what they're doing with the DC Universe's animated version in comparison, you shouldn't make that comparison, but you can tell like it's a straight difference. And I think that's where I'm going on this narrow road, because I think I've seen such great material with Harley and how crazy things really could be. And this movie does make strides. It's very rated R. It is very gritty. It's very like dark in certain aspects. And like I said, aesthetically with the villains, they're very uncomfortable, very timid. But the payoff on what certain things could have been, they really could have just amped it up just a little bit and did certain things that aesthetically I think would have worked fundamentally in the long run for this film. I give this maybe a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it, but I think that they could have pulled a little bit more out of it. And I think it was kind of just left to just linear even though the movie isn't shot linearly, like it's all over the place in certain aspects, but for a good reason. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, guys.